We're going to hear from the City Council leader, Councillor Brookfield. He's going to set out his vision for supporting local business growth. But just before we hear from Councillor Brookfield, let's kick off with a bit of an inspiring video, shall we?
Thanks, Sean. Great to be here this morning. I mean, it's certainly a bit different to last year's event, that's for sure. But despite the current situation, we were determined to go ahead because we're definitely stronger as a city when we're better connected. This morning, I want to talk to you about our plans for relighting our city and some of the key themes from me for reset and recovery. First, let's get COVID out of the way, if only we could. From this week, we know new COVID restrictions on household-to-household contact came into effect across our city. And I want you to know that we push for this because evidence tells us that 9 out of 10 cases in our city are transmitted that way. Our rate shot up 5-fold in a fortnight, and that's why we've all got to do our bit to get the rate down. If we intervene now before it's too late, we can keep people safe and protect our fragile economic recovery. We need to do all that we can to avoid a local lockdown and the damage this can do to our business and key sectors. So we need to keep the rate down, focus on recovery, and look forward to a much brighter future. Now, my plea to business colleagues is to make sure your workplaces are COVID secure for both employees and your customers. I'm sure you're already all over this, but you also need to be aware of the government's latest guidance. For example, the recent test and trace obligations that came into force over the weekend for those colleagues in the city's hospitality sector. Now, as I said, if we can all get behind this, we can stop COVID spreading and focus our energy and efforts onto our economic recovery, onto jobs, skills, and onto investment. Our plan to help our city bounce back is called Relighting Our City, a reference to Wolverhampton's famous motto, "Out of darkness cometh light." I've said repeatedly that we're all in this together. 2,500 residents and businesses have helped us develop our plan and its priorities, which include continuing to support the most vulnerable, opportunities for children and young people, vibrant city and town centres, securing jobs and investment, and growing our vital business space. These priorities are underpinned by 3 simple underlying themes. And I want to focus on these because they've been magnified into much sharper focus by COVID. The need for a fair and inclusive society and economy, the unstoppable march to digital, and the green economy. I want to make a few points on these themes because for me, they are vital to our city's future and its success. So, on the green economy. Now, we all know climate change hasn't gone away. For young people, we know it's one of their very top priorities, and we need to listen because this is the generation of early adopters and fresh thinkers who will inherit and transform this planet. This is much deeper than just corporate social responsibility. Green, sustainable, and circular businesses will be the ones who see growth in customers and profits in the future. So now's the time, in amongst all this adversity, to innovate and adapt. As a city, we have a strong narrative to embrace and build on. The Council has announced one of the most ambitious climate change targets, to be net carbon neutral in 8 years' time, far ahead of anywhere in the country. Our city will be home to the new National Brownfield Institute at the University of Springfield campus, after we lobbied hard to secure some £15 million in investment, which is absolutely fantastic news. This will be an incredible asset for our city, and most exciting of all, the vision is much bigger, an international centre of excellence in circular economy and sustainable construction. So if you're on the call today and work for a business who's in this sector, I'd urge you to get in touch with Professor Jeff Lair at the university to see how you can be part of this. Now, hosting such a prestigious centre of excellence is a coup, but it's also something that we must live up to. Across all sections, we must talk the talk and walk the walk. Our city is stepping up to the plate. Investment in infrastructure for electric vehicles at a time when official figures show for the first time electric and hybrid car sales are outstripping diesels. Green energy investment and a policy of brownfield before greenfield land development is important to us all. Now let me announce something. The British Steelworks. Now on continuing the brownfield theme, I'm delighted to be able to announce today that we've secured another critical piece of the jigsaw to deliver our long-term canal side vision for the city centre. Thanks to a lot of hard work, the council has acquired the former British Steel site of Cllr Road, adjacent to the Whaley and Essendon Canal Basin. It represents a significant parcel of land and one of the most strategic brownfield regeneration schemes in the region. This acquisition demonstrates the council's commitment to investing in long-term regeneration beyond COVID-19, and it will create a new, vibrant city centre quarter, bring many hundreds of new homes and first-class public realm. Just as importantly, it'll bring hundreds of jobs and supply chain opportunities for our city's businesses. Now, the first phase of Canalside has already seen brownfield lands owned by the council at Horsley Fields made ready for development. And let's not forget that build-to-rent developer Place First has already announced plans for around 350 new, high-quality, environmentally friendly homes on the historic Union Mill site beginning next year. Bowman's Harbour in the north. At Bowman's Harbour, most people know it's a highly polluted brownfield site. We're going to be building one of the UK's first city centre solar power farms to provide clean, green, life-saving energy to New Cross Hospital. How ironic is that? On digital, our investment in our digital infrastructure and the development of workplace digital skills is hugely important. That's why it's the core theme of this year's Business Breakfast, and you'll hear much more about this from other speakers this morning, including the Council's Chief Executive, Tim Johnson, who I'm sure will tell you that we need to be bold and ambitious. I want us to be one of the foremost digital cities in the UK within the next 5 to 10 years. Investment and innovation will be key. But again, I don't want to steal the thunder of further speakers. Now, on fairness and inclusivity, the final thing I want to talk about is on the theme of fairness and inclusivity. Now, we need to do all that we can to keep people in jobs at a time when unemployment levels in this city and elsewhere are edging up. During the worst of COVID, I'm incredibly proud that this city stepped up to make sure that no one was left behind and we looked after our own. As the challenges continue and we potentially edge towards a second spike, although most people say we're on the way there now, and the ending of the government's furlough scheme next month will no doubt have a major impact upon employers and employees. I'll be lobbying both the government and the Mayor of the West Midlands to get this extended. I accept it's going to be expensive, piling pressure on the national debt, but like I said earlier, we need to be bold and longer term in our thinking. So I think we need a Marshall Plan for the UK economy, one that protects jobs and supports employers to retain skills, but also to innovate and adapt to changing conditions and markets in a post-COVID world. This breathing space would give our city businesses the opportunity to reset, recharge and relight so we can build the more prosperous, greener, better connected and fairer city we all want to see. If we continue to work together, we will relight our city and deliver a brighter future. That's all for me. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this morning's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brookfield, for that. The presentation sets us up, doesn't it, for more discussions, big exciting announcements and where Wolverhampton is planning on being over the coming years. Next up, we're going to hear from Mike Loughran, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Rockwell Automation. He's here with us today, and he's going to be sharing his passion for digital manufacturing and how businesses unlock the potential of it. Before we hear a bit more from Mike, let's get a bit of insight into what Rockwell Automation do from this little bit of video.
What does it take to make the world work? To stock our shelves, power our communities, care for those who feel pain, and experience times of great joy. At Rockwell Automation, we make all these things possible. For all of life's moments, milestones, and celebrations. We are there, helping the world work better, faster, stronger, to be more connected and more intelligent. Because we know that when we combine the imaginations of people with the power of machines, anything is possible. Together with the world's innovators, makers, and problem solvers, we stand ready to lead the way, because that is where we belong. Rockwell Automation, expanding human possibility.
Good morning, my name is Mike Loughran, CTO for Rockwell Automation UK and Ireland. It's great to be here as part of the City of Wolverhampton's Business Week. Fantastic to see that still going ahead in the current situation, but actually mixing it up with a series of live and online content. So absolutely brilliant, and thanks for asking me along. I was asked to come here today just to share some of my experience from industry around some of the exciting developments we're seeing around digitisation and how it's offering benefits to many, many industries and customers. Industry 4.0 is spoken about quite a lot, and it's something that really should resonate with the audience here, because it was the Industrial Revolution #1 that actually catapulted Wolverhampton from a small market town into a much larger industrial town than it was city. So again, there's a lot of comparisons to be had here about why you should be looking at digitisation to take it forward to that next level. Firstly, though, I want to tell you a bit about myself. You might have noticed from my accent, I'm not from Wolverhampton. I'm actually from a town called Stockton-on-Tees, which is in Teesside in the northeast. It's a town which shares a lot in common with Wolverhampton. We actually piggybacked on the start of the first industrial revolution around steel making, shipbuilding, and bridge building, amongst other heavy industries. We're not quite a city yet, but we've got hopes for that. We were also the first passenger steam train in the world, which was kind of cool. A bit like Sean likes to talk about Wolverhampton, I like to talk about Teesside. But more importantly, I've spent most of my working life within industry, both in the UK and globally. And it's from that work that I've gained a lot of insights working with customers about things that are working, things that don't work so much, and how they can improve it. From an educational point of view, I've pretty much done it all. I started as an electrical apprenticeship and completed that, then went on to a full-time university course, electrical electronic engineering. So I'm an absolute firm believer in the importance of education for all and continuous education as well. I'm also a member of the Made Smarter Advisory Group. So we advise people on how they can access the funding that can be gained from government, which is a really important part of any industrial capability in a town. We need to have the funding there. A quick word about Rockwell Automation. We are the largest company in the world dedicated to automation. We're in about 80 plus countries, including the UK. Within the UK, we have 8 locations. We're headquartered in Milton Keynes. We have R&D, we have manufacturing, we have technical support and engineering, and we also have a facility just up the road in Aldrich as well. So we're a global company, but with a very large local footprint. It's fair to say that you probably don't have one part of your day when you don't touch something that Rockwell does, whether that be the water you use in the morning for your cup of tea or to get washed, the breakfast cereal you have, the bread, whether it's the vehicle you get in to go to work, or the preferred technology provider for computer, phone that you use throughout your day. Rockwell Automation's had a part in that build. I did a quick search on our CRM system, and we're currently working with over 80 companies just in the Wolverhampton postcode area. And these range from automotive, aerospace, food and beverage, utilities, and so on and so forth. So again, we haven't just got a UK footprint, we've also got a Wolverhampton footprint as well. The wide reach provides us with some great insights, both globally and locally, and I'd like to just share some of those with you. So when we look globally, a lot of the global trends are reflected within the UK as well, and we look at trends and drivers a lot. Firstly, there are kind of manufacturing trends, there are macro trends, and then there are technology trends. So let's just look at those. When we look at the kind of the macro trends, we've all used to the global competitiveness. That's been around for ages. The latest iteration with this COVID situation has made us look at that global trend. It's made us look at that global supply chain and actually think again about it. But to have a good supply chain, you do have to have connectivity, whether that's local or global. That goes without saying. We have economic and political factors. There's more pressure locally, there's more pressure globally. Politically, there are going to be pressures on supply chain as well. So it's very important we start to look at what we can do locally to interact with that and to be more part of that supply chain. Sustainable business models remain relevant for the long term. People, technology, and brand proposition, they don't go away. People buy from people buy from brands. From a point of view of the workforce, that has been changing rapidly in the last 5 years and will increase even more so in the next 5 years. We are looking at retirement like we've never seen before. The baby boomer generation is coming to its retirement. That means there are going to be a lot of places open. There's going to be a lot of skills potentially lost if we don't look at that. Manufacturing, industrial operations, intellectual property is becoming more and more key. We don't want to lose that knowledge when we lose that workforce. And then when we look at changing risk patterns and vulnerabilities, we're all aware of cyber attacks, both in our home and personal life. But that's just as important when it comes to business. We would not want to lose our IP through a cyber attack or to lose a customer base because customers have trust in their suppliers. Trusted suppliers are really valued. So we all have to take that into account. More and more people want to use their own technology. Bring your own devices, we call it. How do we bring that into it? How do we make it work for us? We've all talked about this kind of connected world, but the very fact that many customers have been able to, and industries have gone straight online to do a B2C, a B2B offer, has been made available by the technology they have in their pockets. We have to take this on board and use it sensibly, but use it to our advantage. When we look at the technology out there, and it's a question I get asked a lot, is where do I start? As you can see on the screen, you know, we've got everything from networking to AI to digital twins to blockchain, additive manufacturing, and those are just a few. These trends and drivers, along with an explosion of new technologies, can be really quite overwhelming. How do you keep up? How do you keep up your knowledge? How do you keep up your skill set of your workforce? How do you adapt and utilise the right technology for the right thing? That can be a really, really tricky question. I came across a great stat the other day, and I do like stats. It's been predicted that 85% of the jobs in 2030 haven't yet been created. So just think about that. There are going to be 85% of the jobs in 2030 that don't have a title at the moment. How do you possibly prepare for that? How do you have a skill set for that? How do you approach technology? And that's why we talk about flexibility. That's why we talk about agility. It's not technology for technology's sake. It's about being prepared to use the right tool for the right job and having the skill set there that can do that. So let's look at what the wider market is doing. What's happening globally? Well, it'll come as no surprise that many of the global industries and manufacturers have embraced digitisation quite early on. They're using the opportunity it brings to drive forward their market and to capture more customer stickiness. The ways in which they approach it can be quite different depending on the industry they're in, depending on their market base and depending upon what's happening at the moment. The point is they are using the agility to address customer requirements in almost real time, rather than in the past, long-term thinking, long-term production, we'll do this one for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They're looking at what customers are wanting, reacting to it now, getting onto the marketplace within months, days, weeks. One thing in common though is the way that they're using their assets. Now we often think of assets as being physical assets. It's not just physical assets. Assets is also data. The data you hold on your customers, on your supply, on how you manufacture. And your people. Your people are also assets. We have to combine all three together to get the right outcome. Many manufacturers and other producers are looking for ways towards this mass customization, the batch of one as we call it. But to be able to do this to scale and profitability, you need to have the agility. It requires a lot of flexibility within your industry. But if you do embrace that, what can we expect from it? Well, there are a number of outcomes. In short, as everybody wants to, they want to increase efficiency, they want to increase their improved margins, they want to increase profitability, and they want to increase their customer base. They are looking to change the way their business models work, and we've seen it already. Many companies are going from business to business to customer, or a mix of both of them. They think they can cut out the middleman and go straight directly there. The connectivity gives them that. That can be something we embrace locally. Those greater insights potentially give people a reduced time to market. So if you can get your time to market quicker, all the better to support your customers. And lastly, but by no means least, we are looking to increase the workforce engagement. People want to become the employer of choice. When that skill set is tight, keeping hold of skill sets becomes important, but attracting talent becomes even more important. Because without that skilled workforce, you won't succeed. So, to bring it all together, I like to talk about people, process and technology. Without using each one of them together, you are at risk of losing. Many people look at technology for the answer. Technology is but an enabler. Without that process and the people to utilise that, you are not going to be successful. In Wolverhampton, over 90% of the companies are small and medium enterprises, SMEs. They have got the most to gain on this. If they can start to grasp the connectivity and digitisation message and work to their advantage, they can compete with those larger global corporations, or they can be part of their trusted supply chain, which is absolutely core. However, few companies will have that skill set in-house, so it becomes really important that they partner with local organisations to provide that skill set as and when it's required, to look for local partnerships through the council, through government grants to give them that R&D budget, look at academia to support you as and when you need it. That's why it's so exciting to see the vision that the City of Wolverhampton has on this. Looking at the circular economy, providing a really great place to do business, not just for industry, but for education and for people working here, for the links to get you in and out of the city. And that's going to be key moving forward for the part of the circular economy. I think the UK for manufacturing is very bright, provided we grasp the benefits that digitisation can offer us. We don't try and be laggards with this. And it has to start with the leadership of our companies. It has to. It comes from the top and it goes down over. Hopefully this has provided a very small insight into some of the national and global trends. But if you've got any questions, please reach out to me. Go on the Twitter feed, or I can be contacted on LinkedIn or via Twitter. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you to those of you who are following on social media, following Invest Wolves. Twitter account replying to that. Thomas has already been in touch saying he's impressed with the entrepreneurial spirit of the city. He's works in the property industry in Yorkshire himself, in seizing opportunities of the Midlands engine. So hashtag Digital Wolves as well, if you want to get in touch, and we'll keep an eye out for those messages coming through. Mike, thanks for joining me in the comfy chairs.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, loads of interesting stuff there. Some numbers that really jump out, you know, the way the jobs market is going to change over the next decade. For a lot of people, a lot of businesses right now, that they're sort of looking at the next few months. Are there trends that are happening right now that people can take advantage of straight away?
Absolutely, and I think you spoke about it in the introduction. The amount of companies that have gone online relatively simply, who never dreamed of doing this, I think has opened people's eyes to the technology that they have in their pockets, enabling them to do that. It doesn't need a large outlay. Certainly we've seen a lot more of that business to customer, people trying to get right straight to their customers' requirements based upon the current situation and provide them with that. And to do that, they're using technology, but it's imperative that we have a really great infrastructure to do that, whether that be broadband, 4G, 5G, the right infrastructure is absolutely core for this.
And alongside infrastructure, something I end up talking about a lot is skills with the infrastructure. So if you're somebody looking to recruit, you're planning your recruitment strategy for the next few years, what skills should you be looking to get in-house?
Yeah, skills is a major one. It's feedback I get when I'm speaking with our large industrial customers. The skill set hasn't typically been there, to be honest with you. It's not been fit for purpose for industry. I don't think that the problem there is it might take longer to get the benefit out of that skill set. But we're seeing a lot of changes. A lot of the universities, City of Wolverhampton, etc., are starting to do much more focused courses which provide the right skill set for the right job. Also, I've been very encouraged by the apprentice graduates, where people are getting a little bit of on-board training. They're doing it through a company whilst also getting a degree. Also, we need to look outside of the traditional skill sets that we've always gone for. It was always a route to market. You know, you carry a bag of tools or you go to university. When you look at STEM, they're now broadening out to STEAM, right? Science, technology, engineering, art, maths. Because if you look at the way we interact with technology, it's as much about how it looks and feels as actually what's behind it. And if you don't like the look and feel of somebody's website, you might not use them again. You might not use that product. You might just completely go away from it. So I think we actually need to be a broader approach to who we look to bring on board. But don't forget, we've got a fantastic skill set already within industry and manufacturing. Reskill them. Continuous learning is core, absolutely core. Invest in your people. Make them want to be there.
Can I just ask you about circular economy, which you mentioned a few times? A bit of jargon busting. I mean, what would that be for you? What is the circular economy?
So the circular economy goes in circles, but from a local point of view, if you don't provide the right infrastructure, and infrastructure is everything from housing, from shopping, from the whole experience, to where you give companies the right places to put their business to grow if they need to, with the connecting infrastructure, you won't capture anybody. People will come into universities, they might leave for a job in London. You've just lost a valuable skill set because they didn't think they wanted to live in a certain area. So when we start to look at investment within industry or any of the other services sectors, you have to make it a nice place to people to be. You have to put the ecosystem in place to capture and retain. And again, you mentioned being up in Stockport and the Manchester. They've done that there to a similar thing around the Media City part of it. They've made it a place that people want to go to university, stay, and then stay in the northwest. I think other regions need to address that as well. I know Wolverhampton is doing that.
Yeah, well, we heard from the leader that, you know, this the National Brownfield Institute, you know, national, could be an international centre of excellence. So how does Wolverhampton position itself to be the best then at that?
Yeah, and that's part of the step there, because whether you're capturing people coming from elsewhere to come and move to the city, or whether you're retaining and training your next level of people, it's got to be a nice place to be. It's got to have opportunities for all. If not, people will move on. We've become a much more mobile race, especially in the UK. I work for an American company, and mobility in America is just the norm. People move like that. The UK was like that, I would say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Now, not so much. I work with a lot of graduates and apprentices. They're more than happy quite often to move to somewhere that will give them affordable, nice housing with a nice area to be in, access to whatever they want to do hobby-wise with a good future within industry. They'll move. And if you want to get that, you have to capture that.
And so, you know, businesses listening to this thinking, yeah, well, I want to get involved with this, but, you know, now's not the easiest time for me to be spending huge amounts of money. How do you weigh up the costs and the benefits, and what should your first step be?
Now, that's a very good question because, as I mentioned, many SMEs don't have a large R&D budget. They don't have access or spare skill set or time. And this is where partnerships become very important. If you talk with most of the academic institutes in the area, or globally, they will quite readily have people who can do R&D projects with you and get funding for that. There are a number of different funding models out there. The trouble is, many people don't know about them, especially SMEs. And I'm passionate about trying to get that message out because there could be budget out there for them to give them the time and the money for them to progress their business to the next level, because I understand they are very busy at the moment just trying to keep things going. So it can be a bit of a minefield. But again, partnership is core in this.
Michael, thanks very much for coming along, sharing all that. You got your eye on the Rishi Sunak announcements today?
I have, as I do every day.
Yeah, you get in the queue for that. Thanks very much, Mike.
Thank you very much, John. Cheers.
Mike Loughran there. We're going to hear now from our next speaker, from Rohan's, who we caught up with, Managing Director and Legal Counsel at the local company Learn Play Foundation. Let's hear what she had to say about all this.
We are Learn Play Foundation. We're based in a lovely character building just in the centre of Wolverhampton. We've been here for about 4 years now. We were very drawn to Wolverhampton as a city. We have fantastic transport links, an excellent university, brilliant college, and more importantly, a very forward-thinking council. So we're an odd sort of organisation. On the one hand, we are a creative and digital media company. We make edutainment and learning-based games across web and various consoles. We also have a video production unit, a full service design team that work in print and online media as well. The other big arm to our business is that we're a training provider. So we're mainly a training provider for our own 80 staff, and we run a range of apprenticeships right up to level 4. But we also run a myriad of short courses across the Black Country and further afield. We tend to work for a range of clients that really need to engage with often hard to reach audiences. The game development side of our business is very crucial. It allows our clients to use a very compelling medium to perhaps reach those very, very hard to reach profile of young men. The sorts of other media work that we do tend to be campaign and education based. So we use media options for clients to percolate very key messages or campaigns to the clients and the communities that they work for. As a training provider, we've just about finished our 605th apprenticeship. We've delivered over 12,000 functional skills courses over our time as Learn Play, and in the last year about 1,200. So, like many businesses, we've had to adapt in light of COVID-19. I think one of the biggest challenges was how to work with the staff during this very uncertain landscape. We became a functional remote working office quite quickly. Naturally, we had to re-engineer our products and services. We had to look at what was important and what we could still carry on delivering during the pandemic. A lot of our clients had to also work with their own commissioners just to see what was possible. Once we navigated those somewhat choppy waters, we were able to start delivering our services relatively quickly. So in regards to benefits over the last 6 months, we finally had the chance just to catch our breath really and see where we lie as a business. I think one thing that's possibly really been quite a surprise has been the level of productivity. We've never been as productive as we have been over the last 6 months. I think perhaps that's absolutely down to the wonderful staff that we have, but also everyone's a little bit worried, a little bit scared about where their jobs are, where they could go. We can see that there's been a lot of redundancies and people losing their jobs worldwide. I think that's possibly made the staff just that little bit more focused. So we don't have those water cooler chats anymore. We don't have the birthdays, the cakes coming into the office. I think all of that sort of stuff has reduced the kind of important social time, but it really has benefited us because, as mentioned, productivity really has gone through the roof. The other big benefit that we've seen, I think, is again very internal to us. Communication within our business has never been better. It's never been more key. I think when we've been office-based, not everybody attends all meetings. We have a limited amount of people that can be in our boardroom. So using video-based technologies, it's allowed us to have a bigger footprint within our own business and include more people into our decision making, into our current strategies, into our coping mechanisms. So that's been another key benefit internally. It's just how we all communicate and how very well connected we are. One thing that's for sure is that some lines of our business have grown exponentially. We've just taken on 41 new staff members. And I think that's absolutely down to the fact that we can execute our business remotely now. So our apprenticeship is still up and running. The EFSA have been very positive and supportive to all businesses dealing with apprentices. They've put out a lot of incentives. So we've taken on 41 new hires, which I think speaks volumes to the work that we're getting, the client work that's starting to come through. We're doing so much remote learning over COVID. It's interesting, really. So many of the short course delivery that we undertake has been often to young people that have multifaceted needs. They have a range of barriers. So face-to-face delivery has been very key for those young people pre-COVID. We worried how they would cope with any sort of remote delivery. It's just another barrier for those young people, but they've been absolutely superb, and we've undertaken much more than we thought we would, and the actual delivery method is yielding some really good results for us. Challenges of COVID, I think, have just been there for all businesses across the country and worldwide. Like many businesses, unfortunately, we did have to furlough a very small clutch of staff. So we have about 10 staff that are continuing to be on furlough. That's mainly because many of our clients have had to pause contracts. They've had to work out and re-engineer their own contracts with their own commissioners. I think another big challenge is just keeping everyone connected. It's a new way of working. We've all been very used to face-to-face working, and we are adapting to using video-based technologies, but there are still barriers. People feel uncomfortable. People are aware that they're in their own homes, and that's another barrier that's often there for them. For us, being able to keep morale going, being able to give people information, our own staff information, being able to navigate very difficult and unclear information has been especially hard. We want to be as open and honest with our staff, and we are. We're not in a position to be able to let anyone know that we can guarantee future employment. We can just do the best that we can. Like all businesses, we're suffering with day-to-day cash flow as some of our projects and clients are on hold. So we've had to take advantage of some of the incentives from the Chancellor. Those incentives have been imperative for us. The other thing that we need to try and figure out is how much office space do we really need now? Now that we are successfully working remotely, it's made us really examine what our needs are going forward. These last 6 months have taught us quite a lot. One thing that's definitely going to continue for us is looking at some sort of remote working. Whenever the world returns to some sort of normal, or whatever the new normal will be in time, I think we've been able to see the benefits of productivity, as I've mentioned. We've seen that perhaps it's not so necessary for people to have 4-hour round-trip travel journeys to work. That time can be used much more efficiently. I think it's also about ensuring that our staff have a work-life balance. We definitely will continue to operate as a business that encourages working from home and remote working flexibility. So one of the other areas that the city could really look to evolve post-COVID is building on the strengths that the city has. Wolverhampton has fantastic transport links. It has a brilliant university, a first-class college. Some even say it's got a good football team. I think reimagining some of the spaces in the city centre, which I know has already started, we certainly need some work-live units. I think that could really help bring the city centre to life. We need other attractions in the city centre aside from the shopping, and we do have some brilliant art galleries and theatres. We just need to reimagine some of those things to bring that populace into the city centre.
Thank you for that, Ro. More there for us all to be digesting and taking into account about how we go ahead with our businesses and our lives in the next few months. Joined now by Ninder Johal, who is chair of the Wolverhampton Town Deal Board. Morning to you, Ninder.
Good morning to you, Sean.
Black Country, LEP,
Yep.
LEP board member, chief executive of Nachural Media Group. Lots of big titles in there, but
Well, yeah.
busy man.
Busy man,
Yeah.
just like you.
Yeah, of course, good. Well, the one I want to talk to you about is this chair of the Town Deals Fund Board for the city of Wolverhampton.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a big title, big role, and there's a lot of money involved. Can you just explain, you know, what it is and what you're doing?
Okay, well, look, if you're in business, you'll know that the UK has never been balanced. It's always been unbalanced. It tends to be a lot down in London. So the government announced a levelling up agenda to level up. And I think that's where the concept of the Towns Fund came in. So 3.6 billion across 100 towns. And of course, it was set up so that it was community-based. In other words, the community, the people who live in that cities and towns, determine their future. And so a board was set up with all the local constituents, so large companies, SMEs, representatives from the local enterprise partnership, the local leader, Ian, you've heard from him earlier, and then we have the officers, obviously from the City Council, third sector, arts people, the Youth Council, West Midlands Combined Authority representative. So an overarching board that really took pride in its decision and is probably best placed to decide where to spend this money. And that's how it was set up. And my experience, what's been running about 4 or 5 months, is it's a classic example and a brilliant example of how when private sector and the public sector come together for the common good to ensure that their residents, their communities and their businesses all flourish. And very importantly, that everybody has an equal opportunity to flourish and to sort of fulfill the ambition and the ability everybody's got. So I think it's a fantastic initiative and it's going really well.
And so this bid is a £48 million funding bid. So it's a lot of money. I mean, it'd be a lot of ambition in there. What's in it?
Okay, so we had to look at what makes a city or a place function or a town function. And really, it's normally around employment and skills. And what was interesting is when it was launched, it was pre-COVID. So then as a board, we had to determine what we had in mind pre-COVID. Was that still the case through COVID? So we looked at employment and skills. We looked at regeneration, what parts of the city or the town needed regenerating. We looked at vibrancy, how can we get footfall up? And we talked about structural retail dilemmas, how do we get that up? Changing perceptions. If you regenerate a place, then the perception of it changes, both of people who live within the community and those looking from the outside. I think that's an essential place. You've just been speaking about technology, how connected is a place. And when we're talking infrastructure, both physical and digital, we're now seeing people working from home. We're seeing people changing their business models and maybe now connecting to their customers through digital. But for that to function, how good is your digital infrastructure? And of course, Wolverhampton City Council have had the foresight to understand the potential of 5G and one of the drivers of 5G. So we put a bit of money aside to ensure that the implementation of 5G works for the residents and the business of Wolverhampton.
So is that a part of the bid? Is that 5G story?
Part of the bid.
Because a big issue for a lot of places we're talking about all this digital innovation and growth is making sure there aren't too many have-nots when we're talking about wanting people to have so many things. You don't want people being left behind. How does that play into that?
Well, I think one of the things we were very conscious as a city was that everybody with a WV postcode benefited. So this wasn't just city centre, because a lot of people tend to think, oh, it's just for city centre. This is everybody with a WV postcode. So we looked after Wensfield, and in particular we identified the markets where people tend to frequent. We did the same with Bilston. £7 million has gone into Bilston. Same. So one is to increase footfall and vibrancy. So everybody went there. Renewal, make the markets better. You do those two bits right, then the perception changes. And then the perception changes. Now, the other thing about market stalls, and the entrepreneurs will tell you they start from market stalls, some of them. And that gives them opportunities, particularly in this new world, for new entrepreneurs to emerge. So really it's making sure that you get a balanced, almost like a balanced scorecard of the right things that come together for ultimate the benefit of everybody who lives in Wolverhampton.
Do you see examples of this working already? How do you bring more people to Bilston, to Wensfield, to the city centre?
Well, there's been a lot of regeneration happening in the city centre. You've only got to see the civic halls, which is part of the night economy. It's going through a renovation. You've only got to see the fantastic railway station, which will now connect us north and south and allows us to get to London and up north much quicker. And it's a great place to see. As I said, we're leading by the 5G. And it's interesting for foreign direct investment. We never shouted about this, but there was market failure. We didn't have enough broadband throughout the Black Country and in Wolverhampton. And 5G will sort of arrest that and make sure that happens. But if you've got a great digital infrastructure, and if you've got a great supply chain, and particularly aerospace and automotive, where we're particularly strong, then you'll be amazed how much FDI that's foreign direct investment, you can attract. And let's not forget, Wolverhampton is a global city. Just across the road, Fosun, who invested heavily into Wolverhampton Wanderers, huge global company. We've just been hearing about the Americans, how they've been in Wolverhampton for ages, Goodyear's around the corner. So this city is a global city with a global ambition. And our plan of 48 million actually is only a touch of the sort of ambition this city's got. And one thing I would say from personal experience, the relationship between private and public sector has been phenomenal. That's my experience to date, and I've long may it continue. But I think this city has been a fantastic city, and its trajectory is only going one direction, northwards.
So, while staying in the Midlands.
Absolutely.
Well, so what next then? You've got to bid in. I mean, these things aren't straightforward, are they? Particularly right now, but is the bid in? Are you waiting to hear back? Is there a next stage?
What we were expecting when they first launched it, that we were hoping to have a reply by the end of September. We've still got a week to go, so it could still happen. We know there's an announcement coming at 12 o'clock because other events have taken over as with COVID. We're still very confident. It was a fantastic bid. As I said, it was a bid that looked after business and communities and residents. And for those who still want to engage with us, and there's still plenty of time to engage with us on the Invest Wolverhampton website, the details of the bid will be there. And we encourage everybody to talk to Ian, talk to Tim, talk to me, and communicate through the web. And you can get hold of us anytime you want.
And I guess like a lot of things, if you've got a strategy and an ambition, you of course are waiting for, you want the money, but that doesn't stop the ambition still taking place every day. What can people do right now to get involved?
Well, the city was ambitious before the bid, and the city will remain irrespective of the bid. After the bid, it will always be ambitious. It's a go-to city. It's the city of the Black Country, and it's a city that, as I said, is well placed. We got M6 Junction 10 is now just being. It's going to be sorted, I think, in the next few years. That will make that area around the M6 Junction 10 a fantastic place for employment, for distribution, and that's good for the Black Country, it's good for Wolverhampton, but importantly it's good for UK PLC because transport and infrastructures. The I-54 is the most successful enterprise zone in the country. We've got Moog there, we've got JLR there, and I've just told you about some of the great international companies based here. This is the place to be.
Anything that improves the M6 along the way as I make the journeys down to get to Law and you see the family. That will do me. But Ninder, yeah, lots of people to look forward to there and get involved in. Thanks for explaining.
I'll just give you 4 very quick examples. If the bid is successful, we've got 10,000 jobs. If the bid's successful, we have 1,200 new homes. If the bid's successful, we have 15.6 of remediation of brownfield. These are just some of the benefits and outcomes that will happen through this bid.
Well done. Always makes me nervous when people say, I've got 4 things to list, and then half an hour later you're still there waiting for the 4th one. So thank you for keeping it nice and punchy. Cheers, Ninder Johal there. Right, our next speaker is going to be Tim Johnson, who is Chief Executive at the City Council, of course. Tim's got 20 years of experience in local government, played a major part in the transformation of the city and the council as well. Represents the city on a lot of external forums, of course, West Midlands Combined Authority, the Black Country Local Enterprise Partnership. We're hearing Ninder talk about those kind of things as well. But before we hear from Tim, you'll remember Ninder talking about how improving all of those arts, culture and entertainment sector. We heard a bit about that, but from Mike as well, key to growth and key to the city's growth. So let's have a look at how the refurbishment of the civic halls is set to boost the local economy. So very exciting there to see, what's on the horizon. Tim Johnson, Chief Executive of the Council, here with me. Hello, Tim. Thanks.
Hi, Sean.
Thanks for joining us. I mean, when you just see that, it is a reminder, isn't it, of like whatever we go through with the coronavirus crisis and however long this next phase will be. There are so many things to look forward to for everybody individually of bringing things back to life that have been quiet for a while and growing what we can build on right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about cities. They are dynamic, living things, and they go through phases. And we're in a good place in terms of our ambition for our city. We were in a good place pre-COVID, and I think one of the key messages for me is that confidence and ambition we had as a city is still there. In fact, in some ways, it's even greater because of what we're going through currently. And when you see things like the civic halls, it gives you that sense of excitement and vibrancy, which is why people come and want to live in cities, invest in cities. So it's really, really important that we keep a focus on those positive things, notwithstanding the difficult times we're all going through.
Lots of people getting in touch before this event with questions and topics that we should be looking at. And one of the key questions that came across from a few people was, what's the council been doing to support businesses during this pandemic? I mean, what's been happening? And I guess crucially, we're hearing from the Chancellor today, like, what next?
Our city's been hit hard, like many places across the country. Our communities and businesses have been through a tough time, are going through a tough time. And one of the great things about Wolverhampton is that we come together, we've got great partnerships and relationships, and we've worked together to help businesses particularly get through this difficult time. As a council, we've delivered over 4,000 grants, over £45 million of government money straight into businesses. We've worked together to simplify how we advise and get information to businesses. And, as lots of the speakers have said over the course of the morning, we've got lots of small micro businesses in our city. So again, we've reached out to them. We've created relationships, sometimes with those businesses for the first time, so we can help them just navigate through this difficult time. And to, you know, we were preparing for the city to reopen, as it were, and helping businesses to be COVID safe. All of that work will continue. And as we say, we're all looking forward to whatever announcements today to help businesses get through this difficult time so they can look to the future and what we feel will be a really great future for businesses in our city.
Businesses will look to different places to try and help them bounce back, whether it's, you know, their customers or the businesses that they're working with, suppliers. But how can the council help a business in this area actually bounce back now?
So I think at times like this, it feels like we've got a bit of a here and now, help people just through this difficult time. But I think it's times like this where you have to keep that focus on your ambition, your strategy, your long-term vision, and to keep the investment flowing into the things that will create the right business environment in our city. Over the last few years, we've invested heavily in infrastructure of all sorts. You know, Ninder's just talked about our great new railway station decked in the colours of Wolves, which is, again, part of our distinctive identity. But it's about digital investment, but it's about people as well. You know, we've got to invest in the skills of our people. You know, this is a brilliantly enterprising, vibrant city, and we want people to feel like it's a future that they can be part of. So we've got to keep our eye on the long term, not lose our nerve, and make sure that we continue to sort of look beyond the difficult times we're in, which is difficult given were we are right now.
We were talking a bit earlier about, you know, advancements in technology and what businesses can do now, but from your perspective, when you see the business makeup in Wolverhampton, what can they be doing to help themselves get through these next few months?
I think what we've seen is we've all gone through the mother of all digital experiments in the last 6 months. We've done things we never thought were possible. And looking beyond that, it's not about, you know, hard infrastructure. One of the things I don't think we've done as well as we should as a country and as a city is engage with those businesses about how they can unlock innovation, how they can really develop new markets, explore new markets. So again, as a city, we're coming together with our educational providers, combined authority, chamber of commerce, etc., to think about how we can provide support to businesses that don't have the capacity within themselves. I think we all kind of tap into a microcosm of the potential of all of this. So it's how we can work with businesses in a very tangible, practical way, and that's very much our focus and the way we do our business in the city.
So, I mean, that idea of, you know, more people shopping online, you know, I've spent many hours, you know, in the city centre of Wolverhampton, and then, you know, I sit at home myself now and think, do I really need to be heading out? So are there things that you're able to help businesses with right now to make that leap themselves? If they've never made that leap before, it can be quite daunting.
It absolutely can. And, you know, some of these trends, let's be honest, were fast moving pre-COVID. So city centres were going through a fundamental change. And we recognised that a number of years ago, where we started to reimagine what a city centre of the future needs to be. And it's about experiences. You know, if people have alternative ways to, you know, buy things, what they still want, they crave experiences. People crave human interaction. And that's where projects such as the Civic Halls, you know, the work we do with Wolves, the Grand Theatre, all of these things provide reasons for people to come into cities, which in turn creates the opportunities to drive other business opportunities in the service sector. So we are keen about creating new experiences in our city that will attract people for probably different reasons and will provide that footfall which is critical to any business.
Do you expect, you know, Wolverhampton city centre to have a different feel to it in a few years' time than it does now?
Definitely. I think some of the spaces that have currently been used for retail or whatever will have new uses in there, whether it's education, businesses. But I think the big game changer for us will be about people living in the city centre. And what we've spent quite a bit of time over the last few years is creating great sites and opportunities that we can take to the market, we can engage the market. And I often say this, we're quite discerning about who we work with. We don't want just bog standard development of any sort. We want to create some distinctive identity for our city. We want families to be able to live in the city centre. And that means you've got to look at things like schools. You know, what will a city centre school of the future look like? You know, we want great spaces. You know, change that dominance of traffic to people, which again we've experimented with over the last 6 months. You know, create different kind of uses for spaces, create great connectivity through the station and all those other things. So you create a package that appeals to people. So I think people living in the city will be the big game changer, and as I say, that drives other business opportunities.
Do you see sort of evidence of families wanting that kind of life now? Because it seems crazy, doesn't it? Pick any city centre in the country for a family where, you know, historically the ambition has been to get further out and get a bigger place.
Yeah, and we've kind of all done it, haven't we? You get your families and you want access to the things that you think your family need. But you look to you look into Europe and the US, etc. You know, families do live in city centres. Why not? You know, why does a school, for example, need to be in a suburban sort of area with a great big green space? It doesn't. You know, we can rethink, we can reimagine how people can live. Because actually, our experience when we engage with different developers who are tapping into new markets is there is a demand, but frankly, that product doesn't exist. And we want to innovate in our city. We want to be a place that does things differently and creates and shapes markets.
I've been sort of restraining myself from every question being about Wolves one way or another. But you know, you can't avoid it. It's brilliant. You don't want to avoid it. How does that tie in? You know, with everything that's going on at the club at the minute, just the continual success, with what it is that you're trying to achieve for the people of Wolverhampton.
Yeah. I mean, it's undoubted that there's been a good correlation between the success of the football club and the feel in the city. People feel positive and good about their city, and Wolves have been a great part of that story. They're a fantastic partner for us, and we've got great ambitions with them about how we can maximise the brand of Wolves. You know, the Premier League brand has global reach, genuinely global reach, and it gives us a platform to engage globally. But also, you know, they're a big business, you know, and they drive footfall again in our city centre, and we're unique in some respects in that the stadium is right in the heart of our city. So on match days, all the buzz and excitement that you get from that and all the opportunities that come with that. So they're in a really, really critically important part of our sort of overall narrative, but they're a really important business partner in our city, and we work brilliantly well with them, and long may that continue. Saying that as an Everton fan, how good's that?
Let's not end on that note. Come on, Tim. No, but it is great. It is such a positive story, and one of those things, you know, I hear, not living in Wolverhampton myself, people just want to know more about Wolverhampton because that word is being spread so far and wide. And do you find you get different people getting in touch with you, different businesses getting in touch that you might not have thought would have happened before the club's success?
Absolutely. You know, Premier League football has put Wolverhampton out there in a way that we would probably struggle to before. You know, I think at the end of the day, we've got some great product, we've got some great opportunities that will drive investment. But you need to make that initial sort of connection, as it were. You need to have that visibility, and we are talking about a global economy here. You know, as previous speakers have said, you know, we're a very global city in many respects. Lots of our key businesses are foreign owned, which is great. So we do need to have sort of global reach, and Wolves have been a great partner in getting our sort of city out there, as it were. Starts the conversation. You've got to continue it and be credible and have great investable propositions. So it's a package of things, but undoubtedly it's been a major part of what we were achieving, what we have been achieving, what we will achieve in the future.
It's that circular economy coming up again.
Absolutely.
Tim, thank you very much for that. Thank you for being with us this morning and laying out. You got the diary set for Rishi Sunak. You don't know what he's going to say, do you?
Unfortunately not,
No?
so I'm waiting like everyone else.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Well, we'll see. And of course, anybody who wants to get in touch with Tim and his team to see where you go next, particularly after that announcement from Rishi Sunak, please do. Thank you, Tim. Thank you to all of our speakers for their honest answers, their frank insights on what's been going on. It's been brilliant. I mean, you can just sort of sense anyway that the energy that's building up for people to invest and do things, even in the toughest times, which is great. So don't go anywhere, Tim. As we wrap for today, you can go away and finish off getting dressed if you've been so gripped that you've not been able to reach for your clothes in the corner of the room. If you're in your office now, you can set the timer, have yourself a little bit of lunch before we hear the Chancellor speak at lunchtime. It's been a really great morning. It's been great doing this. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know any feedback about how this has worked for you, because it definitely feels to me like this is the kind of thing that lots of people are going to be doing a lot more of. rolling Wolverhampton TV station, maybe? Yeah.
Who knows?
But who knows? Let's see where that goes. But thank you very much. Look after yourselves over the next few months. Not an easy time. It's a lot of positivity, but we all need to take care of ourselves and our staff as well. But best of luck. Thank you for tuning in.